Have you ever wondered what cards were the most played in 2024? Well, this video is your answer. Today we're going to be looking at the most played cards with percentages of the metagame of 2024 in the TCG. Courtesy of YGOProdeck.com. We're going to be breaking down every single card type of the game to see what the meta looked like and which cards were, of course, the most played in everyone's decks this year. So grab your friends in a Discord call and make sure you gamble on which cards were the most used in any category, and we're going to start it off with Synchro Monsters. Of course, Synchro Monsters have gotten hit pretty bad this year with the banning of Baron the Fleur, and of course, Borreload Savage Dragon, rest in peace. But on the other hand, Tenpai Dragons were also released this year, so you can guess probably some cards on this list. At number 10, Black Rose Moonlight Dragon with 6.4% of deck representation, of course supporting the Tenpai strategy. Another toolbox card for Tenpai is Ruddy Rose Dragon with 6.5%. At number 8, we have Kuibel the Blade Dragon with 8.3%. At 7, Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon with 10.4% of decks. You can already see a pattern forming here, right? At number 6, Trident Dragon with 10.6. At number 5, Black Rose Dragon with 10.7. At number 4, tied with number 3, we have Sangenpai Biden Dragon and Sangenpai Transcendent Dragon with 11% each. Of course, you wouldn't play one without the other. And yeah, this list pretty much up until now were all Tenpais. But at number 2, we have Chaos Angel with 13.1%, tied with first place. Can you guess it? It's the banned Baron the Fleur. Chaos Angel is obviously a really important card in today's metagame. And it's funny because it's a synchro monster that non-tuner or non-synchro decks can actually play in their deck. And of course, it's unaffected, it can be protected by battle, and it can banish a card on the field. This card is played in so many decks. And now with the Fiendsmith engine, combining the Cream of the Crimson tier with a Fiendsmith Engraver amounts to 2 light monsters combining into a level 10, which again, Chaos Angel does not require tuners to summon, so you can just pop that onto the field. And of course, at number 1, arguably the strongest synchro monster ever created. Sorry, Pepega Ruler. And yeah, Baron the Fleur, even though it is currently forbidden, still reigns supreme as the most played synchro monster this year with 13.1% of decks playing it throughout the year. That's pretty impressive for a bad card. Moving on to the next category of fusions, and this one is pretty unexpected. At number 10, we have the newly released TCG exclusive Aerial Eater with 5.7% representation. This card really supported the Fiendsmith and the Fiends when it was released, and I'm betting that the OCG really wants this card. At number 9, Guardian Chimera with 5.8%, being played in Branded, Chimera, but also now Memento, makes it obviously and arguably one of the strongest fusion monsters ever. And of course, we have some Branded representation, being probably the only dedicated fusion deck still standing. Lubellion the Singing Dragon at number 8 with 6.1%. At number 7, Albion the Branded Dragon with 6.5%. And at number 6, Mirajade the Iceblade Dragon with 6.6%. And Mirajade and Albion might be a little bit higher because they could be played in decks like Bestial Control or Bestial Primate, which I have a deck profile for on the channel, because you can summon Fallen Valbas from the deck using Seals of the Heavenly Spheres and turn it into an Albion or a Mirajade. At number 5, one of the most iconic fusion monsters ever, Predaplan Dragos Debelia with 7.0%. At number 4, Elder Entity Ents with 8.5%, a prime target for cards like Dogmatic and Punishment, and of course, Ultimate Slayer, which actually sees a bunch of play right now. At number 3, Mud Dragon of the Swamp with 11.0%. And number 2, you forgot where it was, it's Fiendsmith Desiree, of course, with 13.2%. Of course, this is the boss monster of one of the strongest engines in the game right now, and it's obviously being played a lot. And at number 1, pretty surprisingly, Garura Wings of Resonant Life with 13.7%. This card doesn't see a lot of play right now, but earlier this year, when Super Polymerization, Deer Servant, and Ultimate Slayer were a little bit more popular, this card apparently saw the most play out of all of them. Moving on, ranking up into Xyz monsters this year. You can probably already start guessing which are the top 2 Xyz monsters on this list, but which one is number 1? At number 10, we have Downerd Magician with 4.8%. This card obviously allows you to rank it up on top of an Xyz monster and then rank it up into Zeus. which is probably going to be later on this list. At number 9, the forbidden Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, with 5.5%, getting banned this year for just being extremely obnoxious with the Fiendsmith cards. At number 8, Varudras, the final bringer of the end times, with 5.6%, being the modern version of the Omni Negate. At number 7, number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, with 6.5%, being accessible with a horror strategy, but also earlier this year, of course, with the Snake Eye cards, ranking up using the Flamber Dragon and Snake Eye Diabell Star. At number 6, Kiki Nagachi Fucho, with 7.2%, being unaffected, rank 1, used in Snake Eye, protects you from dying to Tenpai Dragon. At number 5, Mecha Phantom Beast Dracossack, with 8%. Number 4, number 41, Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapper, with 8.9%, definitely making a comeback today with Rizio. At number 3, you guessed it, DDD Wave King High Caesar. And yeah, Unchained haven't been played once this year, or DDD, but of course, this card is amazing, with 9.4% of decks playing it. And Typhon Zeus, which one goes on top? It's the classic Anime Chronicles short that depicts the battle between the two. And number 2, drumroll please, it's Zeus, with 14.2%. And of course, at number 1, Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis, with a whopping 35.2% of decks playing it. A third of the decks think it's worth it to not summon anymore by just placing this incredible rank 12 monster that prevents your opponent from activating any effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack. But this card is incredible against Ryziel, and yeah, it's pretty clear why this card is so good. And of course, Dragoon is crying in the corner right now. On to the next category with Link monsters. Of course, probably the most prevalent of all summoning mechanics from the extra deck, at least today. And honestly, you're not going to believe the percentages of these monsters. At number 10, with 29.6 representation, Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, followed by number 9, Royalty Dragon Zelantis with 30%. Obviously, this duo represents the famous Promethean Princess OTK, with Zelantis being able to blink every monster and bring it back to the board. Raging Phoenix comes back after a monster is destroyed by Promethean Princess, and it's just game. At number 8, Relinquished Anima, with 32.5%, given the fact that Linkuribu was also banned, made this a really good staple in the level 1 fire decks. Number 7, we have Nightmare Phoenix with 33.3%, and at number 6, Apollosa Bow of the Goddess with 33.9%, being a staple in almost every single deck before getting banned. At number 5, Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames with 39.9% representation, Dark the Dark Charmer, number 4 with 40% representation, and Hida the Fire Charmer Ablaze with 45.2%. And of course, can you guess which are the top 2? At number 2, we have IP Masquerena with 45.6%, and get ready for this, SP Little Knight at number 1 with 81.3%. Holy. Okay, we're on to the main deck with traps, and there's going to be a lot of floodgates here, guys, so bear with me. I'm not going to be explaining too much why cards are on this list. At number 10, there can be only one with 8%. At number 9, the banned Summon Limit with 9.8%. Honestly, one of the strongest floodgates ever, and people kind of brought in from nowhere. At 8, we have Different Dimension Ground with 10.1%. 7, Solemn Judgment, a very, very old card, still seeing play with 12.8%. At 6, we have Rivalry of Warlords getting limited this year with 14.4%. And another card that was recently limited, Skill Drain at number 5 with 18.7%. And guess what? Another limited card. At number 4, we have Anti-Spell Fragrance with 19.4%. At 3, we have Evenly Matched at 26.9%. And yeah, at number 2, Dimensional Barrier with 37.4%. And I'm surprised Konami isn't seeing those numbers and saying that this card is maybe a little bit too played. And of course, at number 1, with a whopping 92.7%, it's of course Infinite Impermanence, one of the strongest staples in the game, probably the number 2 most played card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. And from traps, going into spells, and this one is actually going to surprise you a bit. At number 10, we have the limited Terraforming at 32.9%, given the fact that the Kostra engine and Tenpai Dragons really require field spells to operate, and now with Malice as well, Terraforming still remains a very powerful card that is currently banned on Master Duel. At number 9, Pot of Prosperity, which was also limited this year with 32.2%. At 8, Forbidden Droplet with 33.4%. At 7, another recently forbidden card, Original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye with 33.6%. And above it, not surprisingly, at number 6, Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils at 33.9. At number 5, we have the semi-limited Lightning Storm at 35.6, but people actually preferred to play Harpy's Feather Duster, which is at number 4, with 53.6% of decks playing it. At number 3, Called by the Grave, limited to 1 mind you, with 57.4. At number 2, Triple Tactics Talent with 59.3. And can you actually guess number 1? It's Cosmic Cyclone with 63% representation. Cosmic Cyclone, as we mentioned, being able to outfield spells, but also be used as a board breaker later on this year by removing cards like Fire King Island that pops the entire board, or getting rid of the Fiend monster equipped to the Desiree on the board you're trying to break. This card was actually a really important staple in the game. And honestly, to me, that was kind of surprising. And now, finally, the coup de grace, the top 10 most used and most played effect monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2024, sort of like the Rarity Collection. At number 10, we have Snake Eyes Ash with 30.3% representation. This card is obviously iconic to 2024, even though it was released actually last year. This card was the enabler of one of the strongest decks in existence and still is today, sort of a menace. Even though fire decks have pretty much completely died, and with good reason, Snake Eye Ash was one of the most iconic cards, if not the most iconic effect monster of 2024. At number 9, we have Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit at 30.4%, and at number 8, Snake Eyes Poplar, joining the party with 30.5%. I'm wondering which 0.2% of people didn't play Snake Eye Poplar alongside Snake Eye Ash. At number 7, the poster child of this year's metagame, Diabellstar the Black Witch with 34.0%, and 6 and 5, Bestial Druid's Worm with 37%, and Bestial Magnamut with 44.7%. Being able to banish cards, put a body on the board, get an interruption, and search any dragon in the game? Who knew? At 4, we have Droll and Lockbird with 48.0%. At number 3, Effect Veiler with 50.7%. And number 2, Nibiru the Primal Being with 58.8%. And of course, the monster card. It's Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, taking it all home with 86.8. Surprisingly, Ash Blossom is not the most played card like mentioned before. The most played card, 2024, is Infinite Impermanence, the only one crossing above the 90% mark. And also surprising, no Charmies here. Probably a little bit too expensive to be so widespread. And this has been the most used and played cards of 2024. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Which one surprised you and which one you actually missed? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.